when Jessica laughed at the executive lunch table and said, "Ignore her. She'll be useful 6 feet under soon." I felt the water glass slip in my hand. Cold droplets hit the white tablecloth. The partner, Thomas Sterling himself, choked on his wine mid-sip. Before we continue, comment where you're watching from, and subscribe to the channel. We'd love to see how far our stories are reaching. I had driven 40 minutes from Toledo to Columbus for this lunch. Jessica had called 3 days before, her voice sweet as processed honey. "Mom, Eleanor, Marcus and I want you to meet some important people from my firm. It would mean so much." She never called me Mom Eleanor unless she needed something. The restaurant had cloth napkins folded into swans, real silverware that weighed heavy in my palm. Jessica wore a navy suit that cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Her hair pulled back so tight it made her eyes look sharp. Marcus sat beside her in the blue shirt I had ironed for him last Sunday, staring at his phone like it held the secrets of the universe. Thomas Sterling was older than I remembered. 71 now, maybe 72. His hair had gone completely white since I last saw him in 2002, but the scar above his left eyebrow remained, a small reminder of the time he fell asleep at his desk during the partnership exam prep. I had been the one to drive him to the emergency room at 2 in the morning. "Mrs. Hayes," Jessica said when we sat down, her smile tight and professional. "This is Thomas Sterling, senior partner at Sterling & Associates. Thomas, this is my mother-in-law, Eleanor Hayes. She used to work in corporate training back in the 80s. Used to work, as if my entire career could be reduced to a hobby I'd abandoned. I had spent 14 years building training programs that became industry standard. I had mentored 23 junior associates, written 3 manuals that firms still used, and sat on 4 corporate boards before my husband died, and I decided to step back. "A pleasure," Thomas said, but his eyes held something I couldn't quite read. Recognition? Confusion? He picked up the menu, fingers trembling slightly. Jessica ordered for everyone without asking what I wanted. Caesar salad, no dressing on the side, grilled chicken, dry, water with lemon, no ice. She knew I hated dry chicken. She had watched me send back 3 orders at Marcus's birthday dinner in April, but here we were again. "So, Eleanor," Thomas said, setting down his menu. "Corporate training in the 80s? Which firms?" "Several," I said. "Morrison and Steinberg mostly. Some contract work with regional startups." Jessica's laugh came out sharp and quick. Mom Eleanor loves to make it sound impressive, but really, she filed paperwork and made copies. That's what junior positions did back then, right? She turned to Thomas with a conspiratorial smile. "Before everything went digital." The lie sat between us like broken glass. I had never filed paperwork. I had hired people to file paperwork. "I see," Thomas said slowly. His hand moved toward his water glass, then stopped halfway. "And you left the field when?" 2002, I said. "My husband was diagnosed with cancer. I took early retirement to care for him." "How noble," Jessica said, her voice dripping with something that wasn't quite sympathy. She reached over and patted my hand, her wedding ring catching the light. The ring I had paid for. $3,000 I had taken from my savings because Marcus said they couldn't afford what Jessica wanted. Marcus finally looked up from his phone. "Mom, you look tired. Are you sleeping okay?" It was the first thing he had said to me in 40 minutes. His eyes moved across my face the way you'd scan a grocery list, checking for items you'd forgotten. "I'm fine," I said. "You don't look fine," Jessica said. "You look exhausted. Marcus and I were just talking about this last week. We're worried about you living alone in that big house. 3 bedrooms for one person seems excessive, don't you think?" The house again. She had been circling this topic for 6 months now, ever since she and Marcus had their lease rejected on the condo in German Village. "Too much debt," the landlord had said. Student loans and credit cards that Marcus had somehow accumulated, despite working full-time since graduation. "The house is fine," I said. "But is it?" Jessica leaned forward, her expression shifting into what I called her concerned face, eyebrows pulled together, head tilted just slightly. She used it when she wanted to seem caring while saying something cruel. "Marcus told me you almost fell on the stairs last month. What if you had broken something? Who would have found you?" I had not almost fallen. I had missed the bottom step in the dark and stumbled, catching myself on the railing. Marcus had been there picking up a box of his old college textbooks. I had laughed about it, made a joke about needing to change the light bulb. "I'm 64, not 90, I said. "Exactly," Jessica said. "You're still young enough to enjoy a nice condo or apartment, somewhere on one level, no stairs to worry about. And the money from selling the house could go toward your retirement fund. You'd be set for years." There it was. The money from selling the house. Not my comfort, not my memories, not the garden I had planted with my husband the spring before he died. The money. Thomas had gone very still. His fork rested against his plate at an odd angle. He was watching Jessica with an expression I recognized from mentoring sessions, that careful neutrality that masked calculation. "I'm not selling," I said. Jessica's smile flickered. "We're not pressuring you. We just want what's best. Right, Marcus?" "Right," Marcus said without looking up. The waiter brought our food. My chicken looked like cardboard. Jessica cut into her salmon with precise movements, each piece exactly the same size. "The thing is," Jessica continued, "Marcus and I have been thinking about starting a family soon. We'd love to give you grandchildren, but our current apartment is barely big enough for the two of us. If you moved somewhere smaller, we could potentially take over the house. Keep it in the family. Keep it in the family." She said it like she was doing me a favor, like she was preserving something sacred instead of calculating how quickly she could get my property into her name. "That's generous," I said. The word tasted like copper. "We thought so." Jessica took a sip of her wine. "Of course, we'd need to make some updates. The kitchen is very dated, and the bathrooms need complete renovations. But we'd handle all of that. You wouldn't have to worry about a thing." She had already planned the renovations, already decided what parts of my home were acceptable and what needed to be erased. Thomas cleared his throat. "This salmon is excellent. Do you come here often, Jessica?" "Once a month," she said. "Sterling and Associates has a corporate account. It's one of the perks of making Partner Track." "Partner Track," Thomas repeated. His voice had gone flat. "I wasn't aware we had formally announced anyone for partner consideration this year." Jessica's smile froze. "Well, not formally announced, but Greg mentioned in our last quarterly review that I was being considered for the accelerated program." "Greg," Thomas said. He set down his fork with deliberate care. "Greg Martinez?" "Yes." Greg Martinez left the firm in February. The silence that followed was the kind that made your ears ring. Jessica's face had gone pale beneath her makeup. Marcus finally put down his phone. "He said," Jessica started. "What did he say exactly?" Thomas asked. I watched my daughter-in-law scramble, watched her mouth open and close like a fish pulled from water, watched her look to Marcus for help that didn't come. "Perhaps we should discuss this another time," Jessica said finally. "Perhaps we should," Thomas agreed. Then he turned to me, and his expression changed into something I hadn't seen in 21 years. Recognition. Real recognition. "Not the polite kind you give strangers, Mrs. Hayes," he said quietly. "Eleanor, it is you." My heart did something complicated in my chest. Jessica was watching us both now, her fork suspended halfway to her mouth. "Thomas," I said. "You mentored me," he said. 1989 through 1995, Morrison and Steinberg. "You were the one who—" He stopped, his eyes moving to the blue folder sitting on the empty chair beside me. The folder I had brought because old habits died hard, because I still kept documentation of everything important. Jessica's eyes followed his gaze. "What's that?" I had brought it because Marcus had asked to borrow $500 last Tuesday. Needed it for car repairs, he said. I had said yes because I always said yes, but this time I had written it down in my ledger. $500, October 10th, car repairs. It sat with all the other loans, the $3,000 for the wedding ring, the $800 for Jessica's student loan payment in March, the $1,200 for their security deposit when they moved in together, the $2,000 for Marcus's dental work, $47,300 total, spanning 4 years. Not $1 paid back. "Just some papers," I said. Thomas's hand moved toward the folder like he wanted to touch it, then pulled back. "Eleanor, I need to speak with you privately after lunch." There are things, he glanced at Jessica, then back to me, important things we need to discuss. Of course, I said. Jessica's smile had vanished completely. She looked between us like she was watching a play she hadn't rehearsed for, trying to figure out which lines came next. That's when she said it. The thing that changed everything. Look, Jessica said, her voice sharp now, stripped of its false sweetness. I don't know what kind of relationship you two had back in the Stone Age, but Eleanor is here as my guest, as my mother-in-law. She's family. She turned to me, her eyes hard. And family knows when to step back and let the next generation take over. Right, Mom Eleanor? She reached across the table and patted my hand again, and this time it felt like a dismissal, like I was a dog being sent back to its corner. You're tired, she continued. You're confused. You don't understand how corporate dynamics work anymore. Things have changed since you were relevant. She turned back to Thomas with that bright, professional smile. We appreciate you taking time to meet with Marcus's mother. I know how busy you are, but she'll be useful to us when... When what? Thomas asked. Jessica's smile flickered. Just for a second. Just long enough for me to see the calculation underneath. When she's gone, Jessica said. When she's 6 feet under and we can finally start our lives without worrying about her falling downstairs or forgetting to pay her electric bill, or calling Marcus at all hours because she's lonely. She said it, actually said it. At a restaurant table with white tablecloth swans and real silverware, Marcus made a sound like he wanted to interrupt, but nothing came out. Thomas Sterling set down his wine glass. His hand was steady now, no trembling at all. He looked at Jessica for a long moment, then at me, then at the blue folder. Miss Sterling, he said slowly. I'm sorry, there seems to be confusion about your last name. No confusion, Jessica said quickly. Jessica Sterling. I've been with the firm for 3 years. Partnership track, like I mentioned. Sterling, Thomas repeated. He looked at me again, and something passed between us. An old understanding, a recognition of patterns we had seen before in conference rooms and quarterly reviews. Is that your married name? He asked Jessica. No, it's my... She stopped. Her face had gone very white. Your maiden name, Thomas finished. And how interesting that you chose to work at a firm with the same name. Almost like you were trying to imply a family connection that doesn't exist. The table had gone silent. Even the waiter had stopped circling. Thomas, I said quietly. He held up one hand. His eyes never left Jessica's face. This lunch is over. Miss Sterling, I'll see you in my office tomorrow morning at 8. We need to review your employment status. My employment? Jessica started. At 8, Thomas said. His voice had gone cold and professional, the voice of a man who had built a firm from nothing and wasn't about to watch someone destroy it through fraud and manipulation. Don't be late. He stood up, pulled out his wallet, and threw $200 bills on the table. Then he turned to me. Eleanor, the folder. May I? I pushed it across the table. He opened it. I watched him scan the first page, the ledger page, the one with all the numbers, all the dates, all the money I had given to my son and his wife who thought I'd be useful when I was dead. Thomas went very still. Then he looked up at Jessica. Get out, he said. You're fired. Marcus called 17 times before I answered. It was Thursday, 2 days after the lunch. I had spent those days in my kitchen going through every bank statement from the past 4 years, laying them across the table like evidence at a crime scene. Mom, we need to talk. His voice had that edge I recognized from when he was 16 and had wrecked my car. I'm listening. Jessica is devastated. She lost her job because of you. Because you brought that folder and showed it to Thomas Sterling like some kind of... He stopped. What were you thinking? I looked at the papers spread before me. Electric bills I had paid when they claimed the power company made mistakes. Car insurance premiums I had covered during their rough months. The wedding ring, the dental work, the security deposit, the emergency room visit that wasn't covered by insurance. I was thinking, I said, that your wife told a senior partner I'd be useful when I'm dead. Silence. Then, she didn't mean it like that. How did she mean it, Marcus? She was nervous. She says stupid things when she's nervous. You know how she gets. I did know. I had watched her get nervous at Christmas dinner and suggest I should consider assisted living. I had watched her get nervous at Easter and hint that my house was too much for someone my age. Nervous Jessica was the cruelest version. "She got fired," Marcus said. "Do you understand what that means? We can't pay rent now. We can't pay anything." The silence stretched between us like a wire pulled too tight. "I'm sorry," I said. And I was. Sorry for him, not for what I had done. "Sorry doesn't help. We need the money you promised for this month. The $500 for the car. The rent money. Mom, we're going to be evicted. I didn't promise rent money. You always give us rent money. Every month for 3 years. That's not a promise, Marcus. That's a gift I chose to give. Gifts can stop. So that's it?" His voice rose. "You're just cutting us off? Because Jessica made one mistake?" One mistake. I thought about the list I had compiled over 2 days. Not just the money, but the comments. The suggestions that I was too old to drive. The hints that I was forgetting things. The time she told Marcus's boss at the company picnic that I had early-stage dementia. Which I didn't. But the rumor had spread anyway. "Marcus, do you love me?" The question came out before I could stop it. The kind of question you're not supposed to ask your adult children because you already know the answer will hurt. "Of course I love you. You're my mom. When was the last time you called me just to talk? Not to ask for money or a favor. Just to talk." Another silence. This one lasted longer. "I don't know," he said finally. "I've been busy. 4 years," I said. "The last time was 4 years ago, right after your father died. You called to ask how I was doing. We talked for an hour. You told me about a project at work. I told you about the garden. We laughed about something stupid. I can't remember what. Mom. After that, every call was about money. Every visit was about something you needed. I became a bank that happened to make dinner. That's not fair, isn't it?" I looked at the numbers again. $47,300. "Tell me something, Marcus. If I lost everything tomorrow, if I had no money and no house, would you still want me around? Don't say things like that. Answer the question." "Of course I would. You're my mother." But his voice had that hollow quality that meant he was lying, or maybe he just didn't know the truth himself yet. "I need to go," I said. "Wait, the money. Can you at least—" "No." I hung up before he could finish. The phone rang again immediately. I turned it off. At 4 p.m, Beth showed up. My sister let herself in with the key I had given her years ago, back when we still had the kind of relationship where unexpected visits were welcome. Eleanor. She stood in my kitchen doorway, taking in the papers covering the table. "Marcus called me." Of course he did. Beth was 62, 2 years younger than me, with the kind of life that looked perfect from the outside. Nice husband, nice house, nice grandchildren who actually called her. She had been suggesting I was too generous with Marcus for years, but in that gentle way that let me ignore it. "He says you're being unreasonable," Beth said, sitting down across from me. "He would say that." "Eleanor, he's your son. He made mistakes. They both did, but cutting them off completely seems harsh." I pushed the ledger across the table. "Read it." Beth picked it up. I watched her eyes move down the columns, watched her expression change from concern to shock to something that looked like anger. $47,000, she said finally, plus the $3,000 for the ring. I didn't include that in the total because it was technically a gift. $50,000. Beth set down the ledger like it might burn her hands. "Eleanor, did he ask for all of this?" "Most of it. Some I offered. I thought I was helping. And they never paid any back? Not $1. Beth stood up and walked to my kitchen window. She stared out at the garden, at the roses I had planted with my husband before he got too sick to hold a shovel. "What are you going to do?" she asked. "I don't know yet. Marcus says Jessica might lose their apartment. He says they'll have nowhere to go. They're adults. They'll figure it out. He's your son. He's 38 years old, Beth. When does that stop being an excuse?" My sister turned around. Her eyes were wet. "He called me crying. Said you've changed. Said you used to be kind." The words hit harder than I expected. Used to be kind. As if kindness meant letting people take everything until nothing remained. "I'm still kind," I said. "I'm just not stupid anymore." Beth left 20 minutes later. Before she walked out, she hugged me tight and whispered, "I'm proud of you." Then, quieter, "I'm also terrified for you." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Marcus at 6 years old, crying because he'd lost his favorite toy. I had driven to 3 different stores to find a replacement. Kept thinking about Marcus at 16, terrified he'd wrecked my car. I had told him accidents happen, that things could be fixed. Kept thinking about Marcus at 34, at his father's funeral, holding my hand while I cried. When had that boy become this man who called only when he needed money? At 2 in the morning, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Jessica. I know you blocked me. I'm using a friend's phone. Please call me. We need to talk. It's urgent." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I deleted it and went back to bed. The house felt different after I stopped answering the phone. Quieter, but not in a peaceful way. More like the silence after something breaks and you're waiting to see if the pieces can be put back together. I spent Friday morning in the attic. I hadn't been up there since David died. Hadn't touched the boxes we had packed away when we moved from our first apartment. The cardboard had gone soft with age, corners splitting where the tape had given up. The third box held what I was looking for, file folders labeled by year, 1989 through 2002, my mentorship records, every associate I had trained, every program I had designed, every late night spent reviewing presentations that weren't ready for board meetings. I pulled out the folder marked Sterling Thomas J. 1989-1995 and sat on the attic floor with dust floating in the sunlight from the small window. The first document was his application to the mentorship program. 23 years old, fresh out of law school, terrible handwriting. He had listed me as his first choice for mentor, which I remembered thinking was odd because I wasn't the most senior trainer, and I had a reputation for being difficult. Underneath, a note in my own handwriting, persistent, asked 3 times, wants to learn, not just pass, accept. I flipped through the folder, monthly progress reports, notes from our weekly meetings, the time I had driven him to the hospital at 2 in the morning when he fell asleep at his desk and cracked his head open, the letter I had written supporting his partnership application in 1995. At the bottom, a card. Heavy cream paper, expensive. The kind you buy when you want something to last. Eleanor, I wouldn't be here without you. When everyone else saw a kid who didn't know anything, you saw someone worth teaching. I'll never forget that. Tom Sterling, 1995. I had forgotten, had packed it away with all the other pieces of my career when David got sick and nothing else seemed important. Had let Jessica reduce 14 years of work to filing paperwork without bothering to correct her. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Eleanor, Thomas Sterling's voice. I've been trying to reach you. Your son gave me this number. Marcus gave you my number? He called my office yesterday. Said you were having some kind of mental health crisis, and I needed to know that what happened at lunch wasn't your fault. That you've been confused lately. I closed my eyes. I'm not confused. I know. I looked at your folder, Eleanor. Every number, every date. That's not the work of someone who's confused. That's the work of someone who's been paying very close attention while everyone around her wasn't. Why did you fire Jessica? Because she's been lying since her interview. She claimed her last name was a coincidence, said she had no connection to me, but I had my assistant pull her application. She specifically mentioned in her cover letter that she hoped her name would be viewed as a good omen for the firm. That's not illegal. No, but falsifying her work history is. We verified her references yesterday. 2 of them were fake. The third couldn't remember her. She's been working for us for 3 years based on credentials that don't exist. I thought about Jessica at Christmas, talking about her time at a firm in Michigan, the impressive cases she had worked on, the senior partners who had loved her. All lies, probably. Just like everything else. I'm sorry, I said. If I hadn't brought the folder, don't apologize. You saved me from making her a partner. She was scheduled for review in 6 months, can you imagine? The attic felt colder suddenly. She told me she was on partner track. She told everyone that. Said it so many times people started to believe it. That's her gift, Eleanor. She makes you believe her version of reality until you can't remember what the truth was. I knew that gift intimately. Had watched her use it on Marcus, on me, on everyone who got close enough. Thomas, why are you calling? Because I owe you, and because I need to tell you something about your son. My stomach dropped. What about him? He came to my office this morning. Before I could say anything, he offered to do anything I wanted if I would just give Jessica her job back. He said you were being unreasonable, that you've always had problems with his wives. Wife. Just the one. He said wives, plural, implied there had been others you'd driven away. I had met 2 girlfriends before Jessica, one in college, who I had liked quite a bit, one after college, who Marcus had brought to Christmas once and never mentioned again. I hadn't driven anyone away, had barely had the chance to know them. He's rewriting history, I said. People do that when the truth doesn't serve them. Eleanor, I'm going to tell you something I probably shouldn't. Your son is in significant debt. Credit cards, personal loans, a car lease he can't afford. He owes approximately $78,000. The number hit me like cold water. $78,000 plus the $50,000 I had given them. Over $100,000 in debt for 2 people with decent incomes and no children. How do you know this? I ran a background check, standard procedure before considering partnership connections. I wanted to know if Jessica had any leverage over the firm. Instead, I found your son. That's illegal, isn't it? Running background checks without permission? It is, but I'm not planning to share the information with anyone but you. I'm also not planning to tell you how I accessed it. Sometimes you need to break small rules to expose big lies. I stood up, my knees protesting, walked to the attic window and looked out at the street below. A normal Friday morning in Toledo. People going to work, living their lives, not knowing their worlds could split open between one breath and the next. Why are you helping me? I asked. I told you, I owe you. That was almost 30 years ago. Some debts don't have expiration dates. Eleanor, in 1993, I was failing. My father had died 6 months before. I couldn't focus. Every partner at Morrison and Steinberg told me to take a leave of absence, to get my head straight before I came back. You're the only one who said I needed to work through it, not run from it. Do you remember that? I did, vaguely. Thomas had been a mess that year, coming in late, leaving early, making mistakes on cases that should have been simple. You sat with me for 3 hours on a Tuesday night, Thomas continued. We didn't talk about work. You asked about my father, about my childhood, about what I was actually afraid of. And when I told you I was afraid of becoming nothing, of being forgotten, you said that fear was the only thing holding me back, that if I wanted to be remembered, I needed to do work worth remembering. That sounds pretentious. It was, but it worked. I stayed. I pushed through. I made partner 2 years later, built this firm from nothing in 1998. And I've thought about that conversation at least once a month for 27 years. The attic felt too small suddenly, too full of memories I had packed away and tried to forget. Thomas, I need to go. Wait. One more thing. I found something else in Jessica's files. An email she sent to Marcus 6 months ago. I shouldn't have access to it, but she was stupid enough to use her work email for personal correspondence. What did it say? That your house is worth approximately $450,000. That if you sold it and moved into a smaller place, they could take over the payments and have it transferred to their names within a year. That they just needed to convince you it was your idea. $450,000, my house, my garden, my memories, all reduced to a number on a spreadsheet. Did Marcus reply? I asked. Yes. He said you were stubborn, but that Jessica's plan was smart. He said, and I'm quoting here, "Mom always caves eventually. Just keep pushing." I hung up, didn't say goodbye, didn't thank him, just pressed the red button and watched the call end. Then I sat back down on the attic floor and cried. Not the gentle tears from the other night. Deep, body-shaking sobs that hurt my ribs and made my throat raw. Cried for the son I thought I had raised. Cried for the mother I had been, so desperate to be needed that I hadn't seen I was being used. Cried for David, who had died believing Marcus was a good man. When I finally stopped, my face felt swollen and my head throbbed. I looked at the mentorship folder still sitting next to me, at Thomas's card with its careful handwriting and genuine gratitude. Some people remember, I thought. Some people pay back their debts. And some people just keep taking until there's nothing left. I gathered up the folders and brought them downstairs, spread them across the kitchen table next to my ledger of Marcus's debts. 2 piles of paper, one showing what I had given to someone who appreciated it, one showing what I had given to someone who hadn't. At 3 in the afternoon, my doorbell rang. Beth again, probably. Or Marcus, ready for another round of explanations and accusations. But when I opened the door, it was Thomas Sterling, holding a briefcase and looking apologetic. "I know I shouldn't be here," he said, "but we need to talk. And I think you need to see something." I let him in. He walked straight to my kitchen table, saw the folders, and nodded like he'd expected them. "Eleanor, I'm going to show you something that I legally obtained through public records. Then I'm going to make you an offer. And then I'm going to leave and let you decide." He opened his briefcase and pulled out a document. Partnership Agreement for Sterling and Associates, dated 1998. My name was on it. "What is this?" I asked. "The truth. The truth about who really founded this firm." Thomas Sterling stood in my doorway holding a briefcase, looking apologetic. "I know I shouldn't be here," he said, "but we need to talk." I let him in. He walked straight to my kitchen table, saw the folders, and nodded like he'd expected them. "Eleanor, I'm going to show you something I legally obtained through public records. Then I'm going to make you an offer." He opened his briefcase and pulled out a document. Partnership Agreement for Sterling and Associates, dated 1998. My name was on it. "What is this?" I asked. "The truth about who really founded this firm." I sat down. My legs felt unsteady. "I don't understand." In 1998, when I left Morrison and Steinberg to start my own firm, I needed capital. $200,000 to cover office space, equipment, staff. I went to 12 banks. They all said no. Too young, too risky, not enough collateral. "I remember you were starting something. You sent me a letter." "I sent you more than a letter. I sent you a formal partnership proposal, asked you to invest $50,000 in exchange for 20% ownership. You said yes." The memory came back slowly, like something rising from deep water. David had been sick. We had been sorting through our finances, trying to figure out what we could spare. Thomas's letter had arrived with its careful projections and honest acknowledgement that the investment was risky. "I remember now," I said. "David thought it was a good investment. He liked you. Said you reminded him of himself at that age. You gave me a check for $50,000. No lawyers, no lengthy negotiations. You just said yes and told me to make something worth remembering. But I'm not on any documents. I would have received tax paperwork, dividend payments. You did, for 3 years. Then in 2001 you called me. Said David needed experimental treatment that insurance wouldn't cover. Said you needed to cash out your share of the firm. I bought you out for $85,000. I had forgotten. The details of those years were blurred by grief and exhaustion. David dying slowly, the bills piling up, the desperate scramble to find anything that might give us more time. "So I sold my share," I said. "You did. But what you didn't know is that I never updated the partnership documents. Technically, on paper, you still own 20% of Sterling and Associates. The buyout agreement is in your name, but the original partnership agreement was never formally dissolved. That's not legal. It's a gray area. The buyout stands because you were paid. But if you wanted to argue that the partnership was never properly terminated, you could, especially since I never filed the dissolution paperwork." I looked at him carefully. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because 20% of my firm is now worth approximately $2.3 million. And because your daughter-in-law has been telling people for 3 years that she works for a family firm. Technically, she was right, just not her family." The kitchen felt too small suddenly. $2.3 million. I had invested $50,000 and forgotten about it, too lost in grief to track what happened after. "Thomas, I don't want your money." "I know. But I want you to have leverage. Your son and his wife are planning to manipulate you out of your house. They're systematically destroying your reputation, telling people you're confused and senile. They've already cost you relationships. How many friends have stopped calling because Jessica told them you were having memory problems? I thought about my book club. I had stopped going 6 months ago after Jessica mentioned at a gathering that I sometimes forgot what day it was. The looks I got after that, the careful way people spoke to me, like I might shatter. 3 friends, I said. Maybe 4. They're going to keep going. They'll push until you're isolated, until no one believes you, until selling the house seems like the only logical option. Unless you stop them first. How? Thomas pulled out another document. This is an invitation to our annual gala next Saturday. It's our biggest event. Clients, partners, potential investors, 500 people. Jessica has been telling everyone she'll be there as my guest. She's been using her supposed connection to me to network, to build relationships, to position herself for opportunities. But she's fired. She doesn't think it's real. She's been sending emails to our clients saying there's been a misunderstanding, that she's taking a brief leave for personal reasons. She's told at least 6 people that she'll be at the gala representing the firm. I looked at the invitation. Heavy cardstock, embossed lettering. The kind of event where people wore expensive clothes and made deals over champagne. "You want me to come?" I said. "I want you to come as my guest, as my original partner. I want to introduce you to everyone Jessica has been lying to. I want to make it very clear who actually built this firm and who's been pretending to have connections they don't have." That's cruel. Is it more cruel than telling a senior partner that your mother-in-law will be useful when she's dead? Is it more cruel than trying to steal someone's house? Than destroying their reputation? He had a point. But the idea of walking into a room full of strangers, of being put on display, made my stomach clench. "I don't know if I can do that," I said. "Eleanor, I wouldn't ask if I didn't think you could. You trained 23 associates. You wrote manuals that firms still use. You sat on corporate boards. You're not some confused old woman who can't handle a social event. You're the person who taught me how to handle them. That was 30 years ago. Some skills don't expire, and you don't have to do this alone. I'll be there. My wife will be there. We'll make sure you're comfortable." I looked at the partnership document again. My name in careful legal printing. Evidence that I had built something, that I had value beyond what my son and daughter-in-law were willing to see. "What about Marcus?" I asked. "He'll be there, with Jessica. That's the point. He needs to see who you really are. Not his mother who he can manipulate and dismiss, but Eleanor Hayes, who built her career on being smarter than everyone else in the room." The idea was terrifying and appealing in equal measure. A chance to show Marcus that I wasn't confused or weak. A chance to stop being invisible. "I need to think about it," I said. "Of course. But Eleanor, while you're thinking, consider this. If you don't stop them now, they won't stop on their own. They'll keep pushing until you have nothing left. Not your house, not your reputation, not your dignity. Is that the legacy you want?" After Thomas left, I sat in my kitchen for 2 hours. The invitation lay on the table next to the partnership document, next to my ledger of debts. At 7 that evening, Beth called. "Eleanor, I need to tell you something. Marcus came to see me this afternoon." "What did he want?" "He wants me to help convince you to see a doctor. Says you've been having memory problems, making paranoid accusations. He's worried you're developing dementia." "I don't have dementia. I know. I told him that. But Eleanor, he was very convincing. If I didn't know better, if I hadn't seen your ledger, I would have believed him. He's telling everyone. Mom, Sister Linda, probably your friends. He's building a case. A case for what? For having you declared incompetent. If he can get enough people to agree you're not thinking clearly, he can petition for guardianship, control your finances, make medical decisions, sell your house. The floor seemed to tilt under me. That's not legal without a doctor's evaluation. It's hard, but not impossible. Especially if he has multiple witnesses saying you've been acting strange. And Jessica's already been laying groundwork. The dementia comment at your book club wasn't random. It was strategic. I thought about all the small comments over the past year. the suggestions that I was forgetting things, the offers to help with bills I had already paid, the concerned looks when I made perfectly normal decisions. "They've been planning this," I said, "for months, maybe longer. Eleanor, you need to fight back. Not next month, not next week. Now." After Beth hung up, I picked up the invitation, ran my fingers over the embossed letters, thought about walking into that room full of strangers and reclaiming the person I used to be. Then I picked up my phone and called Thomas. "I'll come to the gala," I said, "but I need you to do something for me first." "Anything." "I need you to invite Marcus and Jessica, officially. Make sure they know they're expected. Make sure they think everything is fine. You want them there? I want them to see exactly who I am. And I want it to happen in front of 500 witnesses." Thomas was quiet for a moment. Then he laughed, a sound of genuine delight. "Eleanor Hayes, I knew you were still in there somewhere. I'll send the invitations tomorrow. One more thing. The partnership document. Can you have copies made? I want one for me, one for my lawyer, and one to give to Marcus. When do you want to give it to him?" "At the gala. Right before I introduce myself to all his wife's so-called connections as the woman who actually helped build Sterling and Associates." "This is going to be beautiful," Thomas said. "This is going to be justice," I corrected. That night, I couldn't sleep. But for the first time in days, it wasn't from anxiety. It was from planning. I made lists. What to wear, what to say, how to handle the moment when Jessica realized everything she'd built was based on lies. At 2 a.m, I went to my closet and pulled out the navy suit I had worn to David's funeral. It still fit. I would need it altered slightly, updated, but the bones were good. Classic, professional, the uniform of someone who knew her worth. I laid it on the bed and looked at it for a long time. "This is for you," I whispered to David's photograph on the nightstand. "For all those times you told me I was stronger than I thought. You were right." Then I went to sleep and dreamed of walking into a room full of people who were about to learn the truth. The gala was at the Hilton downtown, in a ballroom with crystal chandeliers that cost more than my first car. I arrived at 7, wearing the altered navy suit and pearl earrings David had given me for our 20th anniversary. Thomas met me at the entrance with his wife, Margaret, a petite woman with kind eyes and a firm handshake. "You look perfect," Margaret said. "Like someone who built empires, not someone who filed paperwork." The ballroom was already half full. Men in tuxedos, women in evening gowns. I felt underdressed for exactly 3 seconds, then remembered I wasn't here to compete. I was here to reclaim something that had always been mine. "Jessica and Marcus arrived 20 minutes ago," Thomas said quietly. "They're near the bar, networking. She's been introducing herself as a senior associate on temporary leave. Where do you want me?" "With me. I'm giving a speech in 30 minutes. I'd like you standing next to me when I do." We moved through the crowd. Thomas introduced me to clients, partners, investors. Each time he used the same words. "This is Eleanor Hayes, my first mentor and original partner. She's the reason Sterling and Associates exists." I watched faces register surprise, curiosity, calculation. Watched people glance toward the bar where Jessica stood, martini in hand, laughing too loudly at something a gray-haired man was saying. Marcus saw me first. He was wearing a rented tux that didn't quite fit, the bow tie slightly crooked. His face went pale, then red, then something close to panic. He touched Jessica's arm. She turned, saw me, and her martini glass tilted dangerously. "Mom," Marcus said, crossing the ballroom in quick strides. "What are you doing here?" "I was invited." I kept my voice level. "How are you, Marcus?" He looked back at Jessica, who was now standing frozen near the bar. "We need to talk. Outside." "We can talk here." "Not here. Mom, please. This isn't the place." But it was exactly the place. That's why I had come. Jessica joined us, her smile bright and false. "Eleanor, what a surprise. I didn't know you were interested in corporate events. These can be so boring for people your age." "I find them fascinating," I said. "Especially when I helped build the company hosting them." Her smile flickered. "I'm sorry." Thomas appeared at my elbow. "Jessica, Marcus, so glad you could make it. I trust you've been enjoying the evening?" "Marcus, I don't believe we've formally met. I'm Thomas Sterling." Marcus shook his hand, confused. Thank you for the invitation. Jessica's told me so much about the firm. I'm sure she has, though I'm curious what version of the firm she described. Thomas turned to Jessica. You've been telling people you're on temporary leave. That's an interesting characterization of being terminated for falsifying your employment application. The people around us went quiet. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Jessica's face had gone white beneath her makeup. That's not, she started. We have the verification reports, Thomas continued, his voice pleasant but carrying across the ballroom. 2 fake references. One who couldn't remember you. 3 years of employment based on credentials that don't exist. I've been very generous not involving the authorities, but that generosity ends if you continue to claim any association with this firm. Marcus grabbed Jessica's arm. Let's go. Wait, I said. The word came out harder than I intended. Marcus, did you know? Know what? That Jessica's been lying. About her job, her credentials, her connections. Did you know? His silence was answer enough. You knew, I said. How long? Mom, this isn't the time. How long have you known your wife built her career on lies? It's not like that. She just exaggerated some things. Everyone does that. Everyone doesn't falsify references. Everyone doesn't claim connections they don't have. I pulled the partnership document from my clutch. And everyone doesn't try to steal their mother's house while pretending to care about her well-being. I handed him the document, watched his eyes scan the page, saw the moment he understood what he was reading. What is this? He asked. Proof that I'm not the confused old woman you've been telling everyone I am. Proof that while you were borrowing $50,000 from me, I actually had something worth protecting. Proof that your wife's been claiming connections to a firm I helped build. Marcus looked at Thomas. Is this real? Completely real. Your mother invested $50,000 in 1998. Made me promise to build something worth remembering. I'd say we succeeded. Thomas gestured around the ballroom. This is what her investment created. This firm, these people, this success. All of it started with Eleanor Hayes. Jessica made a sound like a wounded animal. You knew. You knew she was his partner and you never told me. You never asked about the firm's history, Thomas said. You were too busy inventing your own connection to it. Marcus, we're leaving. Jessica grabbed his arm. But Marcus was staring at me like he'd never seen me before. You let me borrow money. $50,000 over 4 years. You have millions and you let me beg for $500 for car repairs. I don't have millions. I have a house I've lived in for 30 years, a modest pension, and some savings. The partnership was dissolved in 2001 when your father needed treatment. I used that money to try to save his life. But Thomas just said that technically the paperwork was never filed. That doesn't mean I'm still entitled to anything. It means there's proof I was a partner, that I built something, that I'm not the useless old woman you and Jessica have been portraying me as. Marcus's face crumpled. I never said you were useless. You called Thomas's office and told him I was having a mental health crisis. You told Beth I needed to see a doctor for dementia. You told your friends I was confused and paranoid. What would you call that? I was worried. You were setting up a guardianship case, building evidence that I'm incompetent so you could control my finances and sell my house. The ballroom had gone completely silent now. 500 people watching a family destroy itself in real time. That's not true, Marcus said, but his voice had no strength. Beth told me everything. The visits to her, to Mom's sister Linda, to my book club members. Jessica's comment 6 months ago about my memory problems wasn't casual. It was strategic. You've been planning to have me declared incompetent so you could access my assets. Jessica tried one last time. Eleanor, you're confused. The stress of Thomas firing me has you imagining conspiracies. Marcus is just concerned about you living alone at your age. I'm 64, not 90. I have no memory problems. I have perfect credit, paid bills, maintained property. The only problem I have is a son who sees me as an obstacle and a daughter-in-law who thinks I'll be useful when I'm dead. Marcus flinched like I'd hit him. You heard that? Everyone heard that. Thomas choked on his wine. It's hard to miss someone telling their business partner that their mother-in-law's only value is 6 feet underground. I didn't know she was going to say that. But you didn't correct her. You sat there in your ironed shirt and said nothing. That's the same as agreeing. Thomas cleared his throat. I think this conversation should continue somewhere private. No, I said. This is exactly where it needs to happen. Marcus, you wanted to know why I stopped giving you money? Because I finally realized you weren't borrowing it. You were taking it. Every loan was a gift you never intended to repay. Every emergency was manufactured. Every kind word was preceded by a request. That's not fair. What's not fair is you rewriting our entire relationship to justify stealing from me. What's not fair is you telling people I'm senile so you can sell my house. What's not fair is you forgetting that before I was your bank, I was your mother. Marcus's eyes filled with tears. Real ones, I thought. The first genuine emotion I'd seen from him in months. I'm sorry, he said. For which part? Stealing my money? Destroying my reputation? Planning to have me declared incompetent? All of it. Mom, I'm sorry for all of it. Jessica grabbed his arm. Marcus, we're leaving, now. No. He pulled away from her. I need to talk to my mother. Your mother just humiliated you in front of 500 people. She brought you here to destroy us. Can't you see that? She brought me here to show me the truth, and I've been too blind to see it. He turned back to me. His face was red, tears running down his cheeks. I don't know when it happened. When I stopped seeing you as my mother and started seeing you as someone who owed me something. Dad died, and instead of helping you grieve, I took advantage. I'm so sorry. The apology hit me harder than any accusation. I had wanted this, had dreamed of Marcus finally seeing what he'd done. But now that it was happening, all I felt was tired. I need you to leave, I said quietly. Both of you. Go home. Figure out your lives. But do it without my money and without my house. Mom, Marcus, I love you. I will always love you. But I can't keep letting you hurt me while pretending it's love. Go home. He stood there for a long moment. Then he nodded, took Jessica's hand, and walked toward the exit. She was crying now too, mascara running down her face. The perfect facade finally cracked. Thomas touched my elbow. Are you all right? No, but I will be. He guided me to a chair. Margaret brought me water. Around us, conversations slowly resumed. Quieter now. More subdued. That was the bravest thing I've ever seen, Margaret said. That was the hardest thing I've ever done, I corrected. Thomas knelt beside my chair. Eleanor, the partnership. It's real. If you want to pursue it legally, we can discuss terms. But only if you want to. I don't want your money, Thomas. I just wanted my son to see who I really am. I think 500 people saw who you really are tonight, including me. He squeezed my hand. Thank you for saving my firm twice. Once in 1998, and once today. 3 weeks after the gala, I was in my garden planting bulbs for spring when Marcus's car pulled into the driveway. Alone this time. No Jessica. I kept working, my hands deep in the soil David and I had mixed with compost 15 years ago. Marcus walked across the lawn slowly, like someone approaching a wild animal. Mom, he said, can we talk? I'm listening. He sat on the porch steps. His suit was wrinkled, his tie loose. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. Jessica left me. Moved back to Michigan 3 days after the gala. Took half our stuff and maxed out our joint credit card on the way out. I pushed another bulb into the earth, covered it with soil. I'm sorry. Are you? I'm sorry you're hurting. I'm not sorry she's gone. He nodded, picked at a splinter in the wooden step. I filed for divorce yesterday. She's not contesting it. Apparently there's a guy in Michigan, someone she knew before me. She went back to him. That was fast. She probably never left him. I was just the one with the useful mother-in-law. His laugh was bitter. I've been so stupid. Yes, you have. He looked up, surprised I'd agreed. I lost my job. They said I'd been using company resources for personal business. Turns out Jessica had been using my work email to send her fake credential letters. Made it look like everything was coming from me. The bulbs were done. I stood, brushed dirt from my knees. What are you going to do? I don't know. I'm broke. I owe $78,000. My apartment lease is up next month and I can't afford to renew. I'm 38 years old and I have nothing. You have your education, your experience, your health. I have debt and a destroyed reputation. Then rebuild it. I walked to the porch, sat beside him on the steps. Marcus, when your father died, I had to rebuild everything. My life, my identity, my purpose. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, but I did it. You can too. I don't know how. You start by being honest. With yourself, with your creditors, with your next employer. You tell the truth about what happened. You take responsibility. You stop looking for shortcuts. And what about us? His voice cracked. Can we rebuild that? I looked at my garden, the roses David had planted, the pathway I had laid stone by stone, the life I had built and nearly let someone take away. I don't know, I said honestly. You hurt me badly, Marcus. You weren't just careless with my money. You were careless with my dignity, my reputation, my worth as a human being. You let Jessica tell people I had dementia. You sat silent while she planned to steal my house. That's not something I can forgive with a conversation. What do I have to do? Prove you've changed. Not with words, but with actions. Get a job, any job. Pay your debts. Build a life that doesn't depend on taking from others. And maybe in a year or two, we can talk about whether there's still a relationship worth saving. A year or two? Marcus, you spent 4 years using me. You don't get to fix that in 4 weeks. He cried then. Real tears. The kind that shake your whole body. I put my arm around him because he was still my son, but I didn't tell him everything would be okay. Sometimes the truth is that things are broken, and maybe they'll stay broken. I'm so sorry, Mom, he said. For everything. For not seeing what Jessica was. For not defending you. For forgetting you were a person before you were my bank. I know. But sorry doesn't erase what happened. It's just the first step toward making things right. He stayed for an hour. We talked about practical things, bankruptcy lawyers, credit counseling, job search strategies. I didn't offer him money, didn't invite him to move in, didn't fix his problems for him. He needed to learn to fix them himself. When he left, he hugged me tight. I love you, Mom. I know I have no right to say that after everything, but I do. I love you too. But love isn't enough anymore. You need to show me respect. Show me that you value me for more than what I can give you. Do that, and maybe we can find our way back to each other. After his car disappeared down the street, I went inside and called Thomas. How did it go? He asked. He apologized, lost his job, his wife, everything. He's broke and desperate. Did you help him? I told him how to help himself. That's all I can do. You're stronger than most people, Eleanor. I'm just tired of being used. How's the firm? Thriving. We signed 3 new clients this week. All of them mentioned meeting you at the gala. Apparently, founded by Eleanor Hayes is good marketing. I laughed. You're shameless. I'm grateful. Eleanor, I want to make you an offer. Not the partnership, something else. I'm listening. We're expanding our mentorship program. We need someone to run it. Design curriculum, train senior associates, rebuild what you created at Morrison and Steinberg. 20 hours a week, your own office, full benefits. Salary is $80,000 a year. I sat down. $80,000 a year for 20 hours of work. More than my pension, more than I'd made in decades. Why? Because you're the best at it. Because I've spent 27 years trying to replicate what you taught me, and I can't. Because the firm needs you. And because I think maybe you need this too. He was right. The garden was beautiful, but it wasn't enough. I had spent 3 weeks pruning roses and planting bulbs and feeling like I was waiting for something. When would I start? Next Monday, if you want. I want. Good. I'll have Margaret call you with details. Eleanor, thank you for everything. For the investment in 1998. For the kick in the ass at the gala. For reminding me what this firm is supposed to be about. What's it supposed to be about? People. Not profit. Not prestige. People building something worth remembering. After we hung up, I walked through my house. 3 bedrooms David and I had filled with love and hope. Kitchen where I'd made thousands of meals. Living room where Marcus had taken his first steps. Every corner held a memory. And Jessica had wanted to erase all of it for $450,000. But she hadn't. I was still here. The house was still mine. And now I had something more. A purpose beyond survival. Beth called that evening. I heard Marcus came by. How did it go? As well as could be expected. He apologized. I told him to fix his life and we'd talk in a year. That's harsh. That's honest. Beth, he needs to learn he can't manipulate people into forgetting what he's done. Apologies are easy. Change is hard. You sound different. Stronger. I feel different. Thomas offered me a job. I start Monday. Eleanor Hayes, back in the corporate world. I love it. What will you be doing? Building a mentorship program. Training people. Teaching them to see potential in others. Teaching them to be like you. Teaching them to be better than me. I let my son use me for 4 years because I was afraid of being alone. I don't want anyone else to make that mistake. You weren't alone. You had me, your friends, your life. You just couldn't see it. She was right. I had been so focused on Marcus, on being needed, that I'd forgotten I was already valuable, already enough. That night I couldn't sleep. But this time it was from excitement, not anxiety. I made lists of curriculum ideas, training modules, mentorship structures. Thought about the associates I could help, the mistakes I could teach them to avoid. At 2 a.m, I went to my closet and pulled out the navy suit. It would need to be dry cleaned before Monday. I laid it on the bed next to 3 other professional outfits I'd forgotten I owned. Look at me, I said to David's photograph. 64 years old and starting over. You'd probably say I'm crazy, but I could almost hear his response. Not crazy. Brave. Monday came fast. Thomas met me at the firm entrance with coffee and a warm smile. Ready? Terrified, but ready. My office was on the 3rd floor, corner view, twice the size of my bedroom at home. The nameplate on the door read, Eleanor Hayes, Director of Mentorship Programs. It's perfect, I said. You're perfect for it. Come on, I'll introduce you to your first mentee. The young woman waiting in the conference room was 25, fresh out of law school, nervous energy radiating from every gesture. She stood when I entered, shook my hand too hard. Ms. Hayes, I'm Rachel Chen. Thomas said you're going to be my mentor. I'm so honored. I've read about your work at Morrison and Steinberg. The training programs you designed are legendary. They're old, I said. But some principles don't expire. Sit down, Rachel. Tell me what you want to build. Not what you think I want to hear. What you actually want. She sat, took a breath, started talking about her dreams of changing how corporate law approached client relationships, about building firms that valued people over profit, about creating something worth remembering. I listened and took notes, and for the first time in 4 years, I felt like myself again, not Marcus's mother, not the confused old woman Jessica had tried to make me. Just Eleanor Hayes, who had built a career on seeing potential in others and helping them become more than they thought possible. At lunch, Thomas brought me a sandwich. How's it going? Rachel Chen is going to be extraordinary. I know. That's why I gave her to you. Eleanor, I have to tell you something. The partnership document. I filed it officially last week. You now own 20% of Sterling and Associates. The buyout was incomplete. Legally, you've been a partner this whole time. Thomas, no arguments. It's done. Your first dividend check is being processed. Should be around $90,000. After that, quarterly payments based on firm performance. $90,000. More money than Marcus had borrowed in 4 years. I don't know what to say. Say you'll keep showing up. Keep building this program. Keep reminding me why I started this firm in the first place. I can do that. That evening, I drove home through Toledo streets that felt different somehow. Brighter, fuller of possibility. I pulled into my driveway and saw the garden waiting, the house standing strong, the life I'd built still intact despite everything. Inside, I made dinner for one, grilled chicken, properly seasoned, salad with dressing on the side, wine in the good crystal glasses David and I had received as wedding gifts. I sat at my kitchen table, the same table where I'd counted out $50,000 in loans to Marcus, and I raised my glass to the empty chair across from me. To new beginnings, I said, and to knowing when to let go. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Got a job interview tomorrow. Warehouse work, but it's honest. Wanted you to know I'm trying. Love you, Mom. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back, good luck tomorrow. Let me know how it goes. Not, I'm proud of you. Not, I love you too. Just acknowledgement that he was taking steps. That's all I could give right now. Maybe someday there would be more. Maybe not. But either way, I would be fine. I had my house, my garden, my new job, my worth restored. I had learned the hardest lesson. That being alone is better than being used. That love without respect is just manipulation with a prettier name. I finished my wine, washed the dishes, and went to bed in the house that was still mine, in the life I'd fought to keep. And for the first time in 4 years, I slept through the night without once reaching for the phone to see if Marcus had called. The marble floor was colder than I expected. I lay there, stunned, my arthritic knees screaming as 200 pairs of eyes stared down at me. My cane, the one James gave me on our 40th anniversary, hand-carved walnut with brass fittings, rolled away across the polished stone. Someone had kicked it. Hard. Stop faking it! Brooke's voice cut through the chapel like a knife. You killed him for the $50 million. Before we continue, comment where you're watching from, and subscribe to the channel. We'd love to see how far our stories are reaching. I tried to push myself up, but my hands were shaking too badly. The fall had knocked the wind out of me. At 64, you don't bounce back from hitting marble. My right hip throbbed where it had connected with the floor. I could already feel the bruise forming. Mom, just stay down. That was Dylan's voice, somewhere above me, not helping me up, just telling me to stay down, like I was a dog. I had spent 43 years married to James Sullivan, 43 years of packing his lunches, ironing his shirts, raising his son. I'd worked double shifts at Lutheran General when Dylan needed braces. I'd sold my mother's wedding ring to help James start his first business. And now, 4 months after burying my husband, I was lying on the floor of Holy Name Cathedral while my daughter-in-law accused me of murder. The thing about arthritis is that people think you're exaggerating. They see you walk into a room without your cane one day and assume you've been lying about needing it. What they don't see are the mornings you can't get out of bed without 20 minutes of stretching, the nights you sleep sitting up because lying flat makes your knees lock. Brooke knew this. She'd watched me struggle with pill bottles. She'd seen me grip the kitchen counter just to stand upright after loading the dishwasher, and she'd kicked my cane anyway. Security should remove her, Brooke continued, her voice carrying to every corner of the chapel. She was wearing black Prada. I'd seen the price tag when she'd left it lying on my guest bed last month. $4,800 for a dress she'd wear once. She's been trying to control the estate. She forged documents. James told me he was afraid of her. That was a lie. James had never been afraid of anyone in his life, least of all me. I managed to get to my knees. The chapel floor was unforgiving. My right stocking had torn, and I could feel blood trickling down my shin. Dylan stood 3 feet away, his hands in his pockets, looking at the floor. Not at me. At the floor. Dylan. My voice came out hoarse. Help me up. He didn't move. Monsignor Patterson stepped forward instead, his weathered face creased with concern. He'd married James and me in this same chapel in 1981. Mrs. Sullivan, let me help you. Don't touch her, Father, Brooke snapped. She's dangerous. She needs psychiatric evaluation. Dylan's already filed the paperwork with his attorney. That's when I saw him. The Faxinero, the man Brooke had hired 3 months ago to handle the grounds at our Lake Forest estate. Carlos something. He was standing near the side entrance, wearing the same navy work jacket he always wore. But there was something different about the way he was watching Brooke. Not like an employee, like someone taking notes. He moved through the crowd with quiet authority, and I noticed for the first time how he carried himself. Not like a day laborer, like someone used to giving orders. When he reached Brooke, he didn't ask permission. He simply pulled something from his jacket pocket, a leather wallet, and flipped it open. I was too far away to read it, but I saw Brooke's face change. The color drained from her cheeks. Brooke Sullivan, Carlos said, his voice different now, harder, professional. I'm Investigator Carlos Mendez, Illinois State Police. I need you to come with me. This is insane, Brooke said. but her voice had lost its edge. I haven't done anything. Carlos glanced at me, still on my knees, blood running down my leg. Then he looked back at Brooke. When he spoke, every word landed like a hammer. She didn't kill him, you did. The chapel went silent. Brooke opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. What are you? You have the right to remain silent, Carlos continued, pulling handcuffs from his belt. I suggest you use it. Dylan finally moved. Wait, Carlos, what the hell is this? You work for us. I don't work for you, Carlos said flatly. I've been working with the Cook County State's attorney for the past 8 months. He snapped the first cuff onto Brooke's wrist. She didn't resist. She just stood there, frozen, her mouth slightly open. I stayed on my knees, watching. My hip ached. My shin was still bleeding, but for the first time in 4 months I could breathe. Monsignor Patterson knelt beside me. Emma, let's get you to a chair. As he helped me up, I kept my eyes on Carlos. He was speaking quietly to another man now, someone in a dark suit who'd appeared from nowhere. The man nodded and moved toward Dylan, who looked like he'd been hit by a truck. My sister-in-law Diane pushed through the crowd, her face fierce. About damn time, she muttered, wrapping an arm around my waist to steady me. She'd been the one who'd insisted something was wrong. She'd been the one who'd hired Carlos, though I hadn't known that until this moment. Did you know? I asked her. Not everything, she admitted, but enough to know she was lying. Carlos finished with Brooke and turned to address the crowd. James Sullivan's death is now being investigated as a homicide. Anyone with information is asked to contact the state's attorney's office. Someone gasped. Several people pulled out their phones. Brooke found her voice. Dylan, tell them this is crazy. Tell them I loved your father. But Dylan was staring at Carlos. Homicide? My father had a heart attack. We saw the death certificate. Death certificates can be falsified, Carlos said, especially when the attending physician is being paid to look the other way. He gestured to his partner. We'll need statements from everyone present at the time of death. Starting with you, Mr. Sullivan. I let Diane guide me to a pew. My legs were shaking so badly I couldn't stand anymore. As I sat down, I looked at the stained glass window above the altar. St. Michael, sword raised, defeating the serpent. James had always loved that window. I pressed my hand against my bleeding shin and wondered how many lies I'd believed. How many times I'd made excuses for Brooke. How many nights I'd told myself that my son's wife was just young and ambitious, not dangerous. Carlos caught my eye across the chapel. He gave me the smallest nod. Then he led Brooke Sullivan toward the door, her handcuffs glinting under the cathedral lights. The hospital discharged me with painkillers and a prescription I couldn't afford to fill. Diane drove me home, not to the Lake Forest estate where James and I had lived for 30 years, but to her townhouse in Evanston. The estate was technically mine according to the will, but Brooke's lawyers had filed an emergency motion claiming I was mentally unstable and a danger to the property. They can't keep you out forever, Diane said as we pulled into her driveway. Carlos said the injunction is temporary. I didn't answer. My hip throbbed with every breath. The ER doctor had confirmed no fractures, but deep tissue bruising took months to heal. At my age, months felt like forever. Inside, Diane's living room was smaller than my bedroom at the estate. She'd set up the pull-out couch with fresh sheets. A glass of water and my pain medication sat on the side table, next to a new cane. Aluminum, adjustable, nothing like the one Brooke had broken. Dylan called 4 times while you were being examined, Diane said, hanging up our coats. I didn't answer. What did he want? He left voicemails. She pulled out her phone and handed it to me. You should listen. I pressed play on the first message. Mom, it's me. Look, I know today was confusing, but Brooke's lawyers are saying there's been a misunderstanding. They have evidence that Carlos Mendez isn't even a real investigator. He's a private detective Aunt Diane hired to harass Brooke. We need to talk. Please call me back. The second message was longer. Mom, Brooke made bail. Her attorney is Leonard Whitmore. He's one of the best criminal defense lawyers in Illinois. He's looking into Carlos's background, and apparently, there are some serious questions about his credentials. Also, the state's attorney hasn't officially charged Brooke with anything yet. They're just questioning her. Mom, I think Aunt Diane has been feeding you false information. Dad's death was natural. You know that. Please just come home so we can sort this out. I deleted both messages without listening to the other two. He doesn't believe it, I said quietly. Diane took her phone back. He will. Give him time. But time was the one thing I was running out of. The next morning, I woke to my phone ringing. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. 2 minutes later, it rang again. Same number. On the third call, I answered. Mrs. Sullivan? A woman's voice, professional but cold. This is Jennifer Park from Whitmore and Associates. I'm calling on behalf of our client, Brooke Sullivan. We're prepared to offer you a settlement. I sat up too quickly. Pain shot through my hip. A settlement? $1 million, tax-free, in exchange for a signed statement confirming that James Sullivan died of natural causes and that you have no reason to believe Mrs. Brooke Sullivan was involved in his death in any way. I pressed the phone harder against my ear. You're offering me money to lie. We're offering you financial security, Mrs. Sullivan. We understand you're living with your sister-in-law currently, that your arthritis medication costs approximately $800 per month, that your late husband's estate is frozen pending investigation, which means you have no access to funds. My hands were shaking. How do you know what my medication costs? We've done our research. You have until Friday at 5 p.m. to accept. After that, the offer is withdrawn, and we proceed with our countersuit. Countersuit? Defamation, Mrs. Sullivan. Emotional distress. Conspiracy to commit fraud. We're seeking $5 million in damages. Jennifer Park's voice didn't change tone. She could have been ordering coffee. You don't have $5 million, but we can attach your Social Security benefits, your late husband's pension, any future inheritance. We can make sure you spend your remaining years in debt. The line went dead. I sat on Diane's pull-out couch, staring at my phone. Outside, garbage trucks rumbled past. Someone's dog barked. Normal morning sounds in a normal neighborhood. Everything in my life had stopped being normal 4 months ago when James collapsed in our kitchen. I'd been making his coffee. French press the way he liked it. He'd been reading the Tribune at the breakfast table, complaining about property taxes. Then he'd made a small sound. Not quite a gasp, just a surprised, "Oh," and slumped forward. By the time the paramedics arrived, he was gone. Massive heart attack, the ER doctor said. Common in men his age. Nothing anyone could have done. Brooke had been at the gym. Dylan had been in surgery at Northwestern. I'd ridden alone in the ambulance, holding James's hand, talking to him even though I knew he couldn't hear me anymore. At the hospital, Brooke had arrived in her workout clothes, mascara running, sobbing into Dylan's shoulder. I should have been there, she'd kept saying. I should have been there. I'd believed her grief was real. Carlos showed up at Diane's townhouse that afternoon. He was wearing jeans and a flannel shirt instead of his work jacket. Without the groundskeeper costume, he looked different, older, more serious. "Can I come in?" he asked. Diane made coffee while Carlos sat across from me at her kitchen table. He pulled out a manila folder and set it between us. "Brooke's lawyers contacted you," he said. Not a question. "How did you know?" "Because that's what they do. Whitmore is expensive, which means Brooke has access to serious money. Money she shouldn't have, considering her fitness influencer career brings in maybe $40,000 a year." I opened the folder. Inside were bank statements, wire transfers, screenshots of text messages, all time-stamped, all annotated with yellow highlighting. "This is from Brooke's personal accounts," Carlos said. "Notice the deposit starting 8 months before James died. $5,000 here, $8,000 there, always in cash, always noted as consulting fees. Consulting for what? That's what we're trying to determine. But look at this." He pulled out a printed email. "This is from Brooke to a company called Apex Wellness Solutions. She's ordering supplements, large quantities, things like yohimbine, ephedra, bitter orange extract. I don't understand. They're all stimulants. Individually, they're legal. Combined, in high enough doses, they can trigger cardiac events, especially in someone with an undiagnosed heart condition." My mouth went dry. James didn't have a heart condition. According to his doctor, no. But that's the thing about these substances. They work on anyone if you give them enough. And if you give them slowly, over time, they build up in the system. By the time symptoms appear, it looks like natural causes. Diane set coffee cups in front of us. Her hand was shaking slightly. You're saying Brooke poisoned James. I'm saying the medical examiner is exhuming James's body next week. If we find traces of these substances in his tissue samples, combined with the financial motive and the documentary evidence, we have a case. I couldn't look at the folder anymore. I pushed it back toward Carlos. Dylan doesn't believe any of this. He thinks you're a fraud. Dylan is married to a woman who stood to inherit $50 million. Of course he doesn't want to believe it. Carlos took a sip of coffee. But he's going to have to choose. And soon. Brooke's lawyers offered me money, I said. $1 million to sign a statement saying James died naturally. Did you take it? No. Good. Because the moment you sign that, you become an accessory. And they know it. Carlos closed the folder. Emma, these people are not playing games. Brooke has already tried to have you declared mentally incompetent. Whitmore filed the petition yesterday. The hearing is next Wednesday. I felt the room tilt. On what grounds? They're claiming you have dementia, that you've been experiencing memory loss, paranoid delusions, inability to manage daily tasks. They have a psychiatrist prepared to testify. Someone Brooke paid $15,000 for an evaluation you never sat for. Diane slammed her coffee cup down. That's fraud. Yes, but it'll take months to prove. In the meantime, if the judge grants the petition, Brooke and Dylan get control of the estate, and you get nothing. I looked at Carlos, this man who'd spent 8 months pretending to trim hedges and rake leaves. Why are you helping me? He was quiet for a moment. Your sister-in-law hired me because she had a bad feeling. That's not usually enough to build a case. But when I started watching Brooke, I saw patterns. The way she isolated James from his friends, the way she controlled his schedule, the way she made sure she was always the one preparing his vitamins, his protein shakes, his coffee, I said quietly. Carlos nodded. His coffee, always French press, always made by her those last 3 months. I remembered. Brooke had insisted on taking over breakfast duties, said she wanted to help out, give me a break. James had been pleased. He'd said Brooke was finally acting like family. What do I do? I asked. Carlos leaned forward. You fight. You let me finish the investigation. You trust that the truth will come out. He paused. And you stay away from Dylan until this is over. He's my son. He's married to a woman who killed his father, and until he accepts that, he's not safe to be around. That night, I couldn't sleep. My hip hurt too much to lie flat, and the painkillers made me dizzy. I sat in Diane's kitchen with a heating pad and scrolled through photos on my phone. James at Dylan's medical school graduation. James teaching Dylan to fish. James walking Dylan down the aisle at his wedding to Brooke. In every photo, James was smiling. I stopped on one from 6 months before he died, a family dinner at the estate. Brooke had insisted on taking the picture. James sat at the head of the table, looking thinner than I remembered. His face was slightly gray. I'd thought he was just tired. I zoomed in on the photo. On the table in front of him was his coffee mug, the blue ceramic one Brooke always used for his French press. My phone buzzed. Text from Dylan. Mom, please call me. Brooke is scared. This is all a huge mistake. We need to talk before her lawyers do something we all regret. I turned off my phone and sat in the dark, listening to the heating pad hum. Outside, a car door slammed. Footsteps on the sidewalk. Then silence. The competency hearing was scheduled for 9 a.m., Wednesday at the Cook County Courthouse. I wore the navy dress from James's memorial. It was the only formal clothing I had at Diane's townhouse. Everything else was locked inside the Lake Forest estate. My closet, my photos, 43 years of marriage stored in rooms I couldn't access. Diane drove. Neither of us spoke much. Carlos had prepared me for what to expect. Brooke's psychiatrist would testify I showed signs of dementia. Dylan would likely be called as a witness. The judge would ask me questions designed to test my memory, my reasoning, my ability to manage basic tasks. Don't get defensive, Carlos had warned. Don't get emotional. Just answer clearly and honestly. But when we arrived at the courthouse, Carlos was waiting outside with news that changed everything. Hearing's been postponed, he said. Whitmore filed for a continuance, claims they need more time to gather medical evidence. That's good, right? Diane asked. Carlos shook his head. It's a stalling tactic. They're waiting for something. I don't know what yet. We stood on the courthouse steps as lawyers and defendants flowed around us. I watched a young woman in handcuffs being led inside, her public defender trailing behind with a worn briefcase. What do I do now? I asked. Go home. Stay low. Let me work. Carlos handed me a burner phone. Use this if you need to reach me. Don't use your regular phone for anything sensitive. I looked at the cheap flip phone in my hand. You think they're listening? I think Brooke has $50 million reasons to know everything you're doing. Back at Diane's townhouse, I tried calling Dylan. The call went straight to voicemail. I tried texting from my regular phone. No response. At 2 p.m., I called Northwestern Memorial and asked for Dr. Dylan Sullivan's office. His secretary answered on the second ring. I'm sorry, but Dr. Sullivan is on medical leave, she said. I can transfer you to Dr. Patterson if this is regarding a patient. Medical leave? Since when? I'm not at liberty to discuss Dr. Sullivan's personal matters. Can I help you with something else? I hung up. Dylan had been an orthopedic surgeon for 12 years. He'd never taken medical leave. Not when he had the flu. Not when he broke his wrist skiing. Not ever. I tried his cell again. Voicemail. Then I tried his house phone. The landline at the Lake Forest estate. Brooke answered on the third ring. Emma. Her voice was cold. Professional. Dylan doesn't want to talk to you right now. Where is he? He's resting. The stress of your false accusations has taken a toll on his health. His therapist recommended time away from toxic family members. I gripped the phone tighter. Let me talk to my son. No. The word was flat. Final. Dylan has made his choice. He's protecting his family, which means protecting himself from your delusions. I'm not delusional. The psychiatric evaluation says otherwise. Dr. Reinhardt was very thorough in his assessment. I never met Dr. Reinhardt. That's not what the paperwork says. I could hear the smile in her voice. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a call with Leonard. We're discussing the defamation suit. I believe we're adding Diane to the list of defendants. Something about conspiracy to harass. The line went dead. I sat on Diane's couch, holding the silent phone. Outside, children were playing in the street. Someone was grilling. The smell of charcoal and lighter fluid drifted through the window. Normal life, continuing without me. That night, I couldn't sleep. My hip ached. The heating pad had stopped working. I lay in the dark, listening to Diane's refrigerator hum, and thought about the last time I'd seen my granddaughter. Sophia was 7. She had James's eyes, bright blue, always asking questions. Before James died, she'd spent every Saturday at our house. We'd bake cookies, do puzzles, read books in the library. After the funeral, Brooke had cut off contact. Too confusing for Sophia, she'd explained. She needs stability right now, not reminders of death. I hadn't seen Sophia in 4 months. At 3 a.m., I got up and went to Diane's home office. She'd left her laptop open on the desk. I typed Brooke Sullivan into Google. The first results were her Instagram account. 212,000 followers. Photos of her in workout clothes, promoting supplements and protein powders. Sponsored posts for activewear brands. Videos of her doing yoga poses on beaches. I scrolled back through her posts. Back to before she married Dylan. Back to when she was just another fitness influencer trying to build a brand. There was a pattern I hadn't noticed before. Every 6 months, she'd post about a new mentor or business partner. Always older men, always wealthy, based on the backgrounds of the photos. Expensive homes, luxury cars, yacht clubs. One man appeared frequently in photos from 2019. Harrison Chen, silver hair, expensive watch, standing next to Brooke at what looked like a charity gala. I searched Harrison Chen Chicago. The first result was an obituary from 2020. Harrison Chen, 68, passed away unexpectedly on March 15, 2020, at his home in Winnetka. He is survived by his wife, Margaret, and 2 sons. I clicked through to the full obituary. Services will be held at. Then I searched Harrison Chen death cause. Nothing came up. No news articles, no police reports. just the obituary and a few memorial posts on Facebook. I went back to Brooke's Instagram. The photos with Harrison Chen stopped in February 2020, 1 month before he died. I kept searching. Another man, Robert Kalman, appeared in Brooke's photos from 2018. Real estate developer. Died in 2019 at age 71. A third man, Dennis Park, investment banker. Died in 2017 at age 65. 3 wealthy older men, all dead within 2 years of appearing in Brooke's social media. My hands were shaking as I screenshotted everything. At 7 a.m., I called Carlos on the burner phone. I found something, I said. He arrived 30 minutes later with coffee and a yellow legal pad. I showed him everything. The Instagram posts, the obituaries, the pattern. Carlos took notes without speaking. When I finished, he sat back and exhaled slowly. "This changes things," he said. "Can you investigate them? The other deaths? I can try. But Emma, these men died in different jurisdictions, different years. Getting those cases reopened will take months, maybe years. But it proves she's done this before. It suggests a pattern. That's not the same as proof." Carlos tapped his pen against the legal pad. "But it might be enough to get the FBI involved. If this is a serial case, it becomes federal." "How long will that take?" "Longer than we have. The exhumation results come back Friday. If they're inconclusive, the state's attorney might drop the case against Brooke. And if that happens, she walks." I looked at the screenshots on Diane's laptop. 3 men, all dead, all forgotten. "What about their families?" I asked. "Did any of them suspect?" "I'll find out. But Emma, you need to be prepared for the possibility that even if we prove James was murdered, we might not be able to prove Brooke did it. Not beyond reasonable doubt. Then what? Then you win the estate battle, but Brooke stays free." The thought made me sick. Wednesday afternoon, Diane had to work. I stayed at the townhouse alone, going through James's papers, the files I'd managed to grab before being locked out of the estate. Most of it was standard. Tax returns, investment statements, property deeds. Then I found a manila envelope I didn't recognize. No label, just tucked into the back of James's filing cabinet. Inside was a life insurance policy, Sullivan Family Trust. Primary beneficiary, Brooke Sullivan. Death benefit, $12,000. The signature date was May 15, 2024, 3 months before James died. I read it 3 times to make sure I wasn't imagining it. James and I had life insurance, but it was old. A $500,000 policy from the 1990s with me as the sole beneficiary. This was different. This was new. And the beneficiary was wrong. I grabbed the burner phone and called Carlos. I found another policy, $12 million. Brooke is the beneficiary. Silence on the other end. "Carlos, when was it issued?" "May, 3 months before James died. And he never mentioned it to you?" "Never." More silence. Then, "Emma, I need you to bring that policy to me. Right now. Don't let it out of your sight." "Why? What does this mean?" "It means Brooke didn't just inherit through the estate. She got a direct payout. $12 million, tax-free, the moment James died." Carlos's voice was tight. "And it means she had $12 million reasons to kill him sooner rather than later." I looked at the policy in my hands. James's signature at the bottom, next to a notary stamp. "Carlos, this doesn't make sense. James would never have signed this without telling me." "Then either he was coerced, or that's not his signature." I stared at the document. The signature looked right. James's distinctive J, the way the S curved into the rest of Sullivan. But something about it felt wrong. "I'm coming to you," I said. "Where are you?" Carlos gave me an address in Lincoln Park. "Don't take your car. Take an Uber. Pay cash. And Emma, watch to make sure no one follows you." I hung up and looked around Diane's townhouse. Suddenly, the walls felt thin, the windows too exposed. I folded the policy carefully and put it in my purse. Then I walked to the window and looked outside. A black SUV was parked across the street, tinted windows, engine running. It hadn't been there this morning. I stepped back from the window, my heart pounding. The burner phone rang. "Don't go outside," Carlos said. "They're watching the house. I'm coming to you. How did you know?" Because I just got a call from Whitmore's office. They're filing an emergency motion to have you detained for psychiatric evaluation. They claim you're a danger to yourself and others. When? The hearing is in 2 hours. I sank onto the couch, still holding the insurance policy. Carlos, they're going to lock me up. Not if we move first. Stay inside. Lock the doors. I'll be there in 20 minutes. He hung up. I sat in Diane's living room, watching the black SUV through the curtains. My phone buzzed. My regular phone, not the burner. Text from Dylan. Mom, please turn yourself in. Brooke says you've been making threats. I don't want to see you arrested. Just go to the hospital voluntarily. They can help you. I turned off the phone. Outside, a second SUV pulled up behind the first. 2 men in suits got out. They stood on the sidewalk, looking at Diane's front door. Not moving, not leaving. Just watching. Carlos arrived in an unmarked sedan, not through the front door. He came through Diane's back gate, moving quickly across the yard. I watched from the kitchen window as he checked the alley, then knocked 3 times on the back door. I let him in. The SUVs? I asked. Private security. Whitmore hired them to document your movements. They're hoping you'll do something they can use in court. Leave the house, confront Brooke, anything that looks unstable. He locked the door behind him. How long have they been there? Since this morning. Maybe earlier. Carlos pulled out his phone and made a call. Yeah, it's me. I need a pickup at the Evanston address. Back alley. 15 minutes. He hung up and turned to me. We're leaving. Where are we going? Somewhere they can't find you. Not until after the exhumation results come back. He saw the insurance policy on the kitchen table. Is that it? I handed it to him. He examined it under the overhead light, holding it at different angles. Then he pulled out his phone and took several photos. This signature bothers me. It looks like James's handwriting. It looks close. But see here? He pointed to the capital J. James always made a little hook at the top. Every document I've seen. Marriage certificate, property deeds, his will. The hook is always there. This J is smooth. I looked closer. He was right. The J was almost perfect, but not quite. It's a forgery, I said. Probably. But proving it will require a handwriting expert, and that takes time we don't have. Carlos folded the policy and put it in his jacket. The good news is that this gives us leverage. If Brooke collected $12 million under a forged policy, that's insurance fraud, federal crime. The insurance company will want to investigate. Will they help us? They'll help themselves. But right now, their interests align with ours. He checked his watch. We have 12 minutes before my contact arrives. I need you to pack a bag. 1 change of clothes, medications, nothing else. Carlos, I can't just disappear. Diane doesn't even know. Diane knows. I called her 20 minutes ago. She's meeting us at the safe location. He looked at me directly. Emma, if you stay here, they'll have you committed by tonight. Once you're in psychiatric hold, it takes 72 hours minimum to get released. By then, the exhumation results will be out. And if they're not conclusive, the case falls apart. So I'm running. You're protecting yourself. There's a difference. I went to the guest room and packed 1 pair of jeans, 2 shirts, my medications, the heating pad for my hip. Everything fit in a canvas tote bag Diane kept in the closet. When I came back to the kitchen, Carlos was on his phone again, speaking quietly. Right. 2 blocks north. Blue sedan. Got it. A car horn beeped twice in the alley. That's us, Carlos said. We went out the back door. The blue sedan was idling at the curb, exhaust steaming in the cold air. The driver was a woman in her 40s, dark hair pulled back, wearing a police jacket. Mrs. Sullivan, she said as I got in the back seat. I'm Detective Sarah Chen, Illinois State Police. Carlos has briefed me on your situation. Carlos got in the passenger seat. Go. We pulled away from the curb. I looked back through the rear window. The black SUVs were still parked in front of Diane's townhouse. They hadn't seen us leave. Where are we going? I asked. Someplace Brooke's lawyers can't reach you, Detective Chen said. A safe house in Oak Park. It's registered under a different name. No connection to you or Diane. We drove in silence for 10 minutes. Then Carlos turned around to face me. Emma, I need to tell you something. And I need you to stay calm. My hands went cold. What? I haven't been completely honest about who I am. He pulled out his wallet and showed me a badge. My full name is Carlos Mendez. I'm a licensed private investigator, yes, but I also work as a contractor for the Cook County State's Attorney, specifically for cases involving financial exploitation of the elderly. I stared at the badge. You're a cop. Not exactly, I'm more like a consultant. The state's attorney brings me in when they suspect elder abuse but don't have enough evidence for a criminal case yet. I gather information, build profiles, document patterns. How long have you known about Brooke? 8 months? Your sister-in-law Diane contacted me last March. She said her brother seemed off, losing weight, sleeping more, getting confused, and she noticed Brooke was very controlling about his schedule, his food, his medications. Why didn't you tell me? Because I wasn't sure you'd believe me. And I needed to see the dynamic for myself. See if Brooke acted differently when she thought she was being watched. I felt anger rising in my chest. You used me as bait. I used the situation to gather evidence. There's a difference. Carlos's voice was steady. Emma, if I'd told you everything up front, you might have confronted Brooke. And if you'd done that, she would have covered her tracks. We'd have nothing. Detective Chen turned onto the highway. Carlos has been recording Brooke for the past 6 months. Audio, video, everything. We have her on tape discussing the estate, the life insurance, the memorial service. What did she say? Carlos pulled out a small digital recorder and pressed play. Brooke's voice filled the car. Clear. Unmistakable. The old bitch won't last long anyway. She's got arthritis, high blood pressure, probably early dementia. One more push and she'll crack. Another voice. Male. Younger. What kind of push? I don't know. Public humiliation works well. Make her look crazy in front of witnesses. Then we file for competency review. Get control of the estate before she can fight back. What about Dylan? Dylan does what I tell him. He always has. Carlos stopped the recording. That was from 3 weeks ago. Brooke was talking to her personal trainer. Guy named Marcus Webb. He's also her lover. I felt sick. Dylan doesn't know. Dylan knows what Brooke wants him to know, which right now is that you're mentally ill and trying to destroy his marriage. Carlos put the recorder away. We have 17 hours of recordings. Brooke discussing how to manipulate the will, how to forge your husband's signature, how to make James's death look natural. Does she admit to killing him? Not directly. She's careful with her words, but she makes references to helping things along and accelerating the timeline. Combined with the physical evidence, the supplements, the forged insurance policy, the financial motive, it's enough to build a case. Detective Chen pulled off the highway. We're almost there. We drove through Oak Park's tree-lined streets. The houses were older here, Victorian and craftsman style. Well-maintained, but not ostentatious. The kind of neighborhood where people kept to themselves. The safe house was a 2-story bungalow with a small front porch. No cars in the driveway, curtains drawn. Diane was waiting inside. She hugged me the moment I walked through the door. Are you okay? I don't know what I am. The house was furnished but impersonal. Generic couch, generic coffee table, walls painted builder beige. Detective Chen disappeared into the kitchen to make coffee. Carlos spread the insurance policy on the dining room table. This is our strongest piece of evidence. $12 million, forged signature, paid out within 48 hours of James's death. The insurance company will want to cooperate. Have you contacted them? Diane asked. Not yet. I wanted Emma somewhere safe first. I'll make the call tonight. Carlos looked at me. But Emma, I need you to understand something. Even with this evidence, even with the recordings, Brooke might not go to prison. She has expensive lawyers. She has public sympathy. She's young, beautiful, and she'll play the victim. Juries are unpredictable. What about Dylan? I asked. Is he part of this? Carlos hesitated. The recordings suggest he's not. Brooke talks about him like he's a tool she's using, not a partner. But Emma, he's chosen to believe her over you. That's not going to change easily. I thought about my son, the boy I'd raised, the man who'd become a surgeon because he wanted to help people, the husband who couldn't see that his wife was a killer. Can I call him? I asked. Not from your phone. It's too easy to track. Carlos handed me the burner. Use this. But Emma, be careful what you say. If Brooke's listening, anything you tell Dylan will be used against you. I took the phone and went into the bedroom. Closed the door. sat on the edge of the bed and dialed Dylan's number. He answered on the first ring. "Mom?" His voice broke something inside me. "Dylan, I need you to listen. Just listen. Don't interrupt. Don't hang up. Just listen." Silence. Then, "I'm listening. Your father didn't die of natural causes. He was poisoned. Slowly, over months. Brooke did it. She forged his signature on a $12 million life insurance policy. She's been planning this for at least a year. And she's manipulating you to think I'm crazy so she can control the estate and keep the money." More silence. "Dylan, I know you don't want to believe it. I know you love her. But I need you to look at the evidence. I need you to talk to Carlos Mendez. I need you to see what I've seen. Mom," his voice was strained. "Mom, Brooke told me you'd say this. She said you'd accuse her of horrible things because you're jealous. Because you can't accept that Dad loved her like a daughter. Dad never loved her like a daughter. He tolerated her because you married her. And Dylan, she's killing you too. Just slower." "What? Why are you on medical leave? Why did your doctor tell you to take time off? What reason did Brooke give you?" I've been tired, stressed. Brooke said, "Dylan, have you been drinking the protein shakes she makes you? What does that have to do with—" "Have you?" "Yes. Every morning. She says they're good for energy. Stop drinking them. Today, right now, and go to your doctor. Not the one Brooke picked. Your old doctor. Dr. Patterson. Get a full blood panel. Check for toxins. Check for heavy metals. Check for anything unusual." "Mom, you sound paranoid." "I sound like someone who knows her daughter-in-law is a serial killer." "Dylan, 3 other men died after getting involved with Brooke. Harrison Chen in 2020, Robert Kalman in 2019, Dennis Park in 2017, all of them wealthy. All of them dead within 2 years of meeting her. Look them up, look at the pattern, then ask yourself if I'm really the crazy one here." The line went quiet for a long time. "Dylan, I have to go. Dylan, please." I said I have to go. He hung up. I sat on the bed, holding the dead phone. Through the door, I could hear Carlos and Diane talking in low voices. Detective Chen's radio crackled with police dispatch. Outside, the sun was setting. The bedroom window faced west, and orange light filled the room. I thought about James, about the morning he died, the way he'd looked at me over his coffee cup, the small smile he'd given me before he'd said, "Best coffee I've had in weeks." Brooke had made that coffee, and I'd let her. Dylan called back at 11 p.m. I was lying in the dark bedroom of the safe house, unable to sleep despite the pain medication. When the burner phone rang, I almost didn't answer. Almost let it go to voicemail. But it was Dylan. "I went to Dr. Patterson," he said without preamble. "Did the blood work." I sat up, my heart pounding. "And?" "He found elevated levels of yohimbine and synephrine. Said they're stimulants. Asked if I was taking supplements I hadn't disclosed." Dylan's voice was strained, thin. "Mom, I don't take supplements. I never have. The only thing I've been drinking is the protein shakes Brooke makes." I closed my eyes. "Did you tell Dr. Patterson that?" "Yes. He wants to report it. He says those levels are high enough to cause cardiac events. He says if I'd kept drinking them—" Dylan stopped. "Mom, what do I do?" "You come here, tonight. You don't tell Brooke where you're going. You don't pack a bag. You just get in your car and drive." "I can't just leave. Sophia is here. She's asleep upstairs. Bring her." "Mom, if I take Sophia and disappear, Brooke will call the police. She'll say I kidnapped my own daughter. Then we call the police first. We show them Dr. Patterson's lab results. We tell them everything." Silence on the line. Then, "I need time to think." "Dylan, you don't have time. If Brooke realizes you went to a doctor, if she knows you're questioning her, you're in danger. She wouldn't hurt me. I'm her husband. Dad was her meal ticket and she killed him. You're her backup plan. The moment you become a liability, you're next." I heard something in the background. A door closing. Footsteps. "I have to go," Dylan whispered. "Dylan." The line went dead. I sat in the dark for a long time, holding the silent phone. Carlos knocked on my door at 6:00 a.m. "Dylan called you last night," he said. It wasn't a question. "How did you know?" Because Dylan called his lawyer at 6:45 a.m. and asked what would happen if he filed for divorce. The lawyer called Whitmore to give him a heads up. Whitmore called Detective Chen to threaten obstruction charges if we're harassing his client's husband. Dylan went to his doctor. They found the same stimulants in his blood, the ones Brooke was using on James. Carlos leaned against the doorframe. That's good. That means Dylan is waking up. But it also means we're running out of time. If Brooke realizes Dylan suspects her, she'll accelerate whatever endgame she has planned. What do you mean endgame? I mean she's not stupid. She knows the exhumation is happening today. She knows the state's attorney is building a case. If James's body shows the same toxins we found in Dylan's blood, she goes to prison. Unless what? Unless she has a way to flip the narrative, make herself the victim. Make you the villain. Carlos pulled out his phone and showed me a screenshot. This was posted on Brooke's Instagram 2 hours ago. It was a photo of Brooke in a hospital gown, IV in her arm, looking pale and exhausted. The caption read, "After everything I've been through, false accusations, harassment, threats, I ended up in the ER last night, stress-induced heart palpitations. Doctors say I need to step back from the chaos for my health. But I won't stop fighting for the truth about James. Justice. For James. Family. Betrayal." The post had 47,000 likes. "She's staging a breakdown," I said. "Worse, she's building a defense. When the evidence comes out, she'll claim you and Diane drove her to a mental health crisis. That the accusations were so traumatic she couldn't function. She'll say anything found in James's body was there because you poisoned him and framed her. That's insane. It's reasonable doubt. That's all she needs." I looked at the photo again. Brooke's face was perfectly composed, vulnerable but strong. The lighting was professional. This wasn't a candid hospital shot. This was staged. "What do we do?" I asked. "We make her confess. On record. In a way she can't walk back." Carlos's plan was simple but dangerous. I would reach out to Brooke and Dylan, propose a family dinner. A chance to reconcile, to talk through our differences like adults. Neutral location, public place, just the four of us. "She won't come," I said. "She knows it's a trap. She'll come because her ego won't let her stay away. She thinks she's untouchable. She thinks she's smarter than everyone else." Carlos spread a map across the dining room table. "We'll hold it at Café Luxembourg, French restaurant in Lincoln Park. High-end, public enough that she'll feel safe, private enough that she can talk freely. And you'll be recording. We'll wire the entire table, audio and video. Detective Chen will be at the next table over with a laptop. Everything Brooke says will be transmitted live to the state's attorney's office. What if she doesn't say anything incriminating? Then we push her, we ask questions, we present evidence, we make her defensive. When people get defensive, they make mistakes." Diane was pacing by the window. "Emma, this is dangerous. If Brooke realizes what's happening, if she figures out she's being recorded, then we have nothing," I finished. "We let her walk away with $50 million and my husband's murder goes unpunished." Diane stopped pacing. "Okay, when?" "Tonight, before the exhumation results are released, before Whitmore files any more motions, before Brooke has time to prepare." Carlos looked at me. "Are you ready for this?" I thought about James, about the morning he died, about 43 years of marriage ending in a cup of poisoned coffee. "I'm ready." I called Dylan from a restaurant payphone at noon, didn't want the call traced back to the safe house. He answered on the 4th ring. "Mom, I want to have dinner. You, me, Brooke, and Diane. Tonight at 7. Café Luxembourg. Just to talk. No lawyers, no police, just family." "I don't think that's a good idea." "Dylan, we can't keep going like this. We need to talk face to face. Clear the air." I kept my voice calm, reasonable. "I'm not asking for anything except a conversation. Can you do that for me?" A long pause. Then, "I'll ask Brooke. Tell her I'm ready to apologize. Tell her I was wrong about the accusations. Tell her whatever you need to tell her to get her there. Mom, please. Just this one thing." He sighed. "I'll call you back." 20 minutes later, my phone rang. Dylan. We'll be there. 7 o'clock. But Mom, if this is some kind of ambush... It's not. I promise. It's just dinner. After I hung up, Carlos gave me a small device the size of a button. This goes under your collar. Don't touch it during dinner. Don't adjust it. Just forget it's there. I pinned it carefully to my shirt, hidden beneath the fabric. What if she searches me? She won't. This is a public restaurant. She'll assume she's safe. At 6:30 p.m., Diane and I drove to Lincoln Park. Carlos and Detective Chen followed in a separate car. The restaurant was elegant but not ostentatious. White tablecloths, soft lighting, a piano player in the corner. We arrived first. The table was in the back corner, exactly as Carlos had requested. Good acoustics, clear sightlines. Detective Chen sat 2 tables away with a laptop, pretending to work. She was wearing business casual and looked like any other professional having a working dinner. At 6:55 p.m., Dylan and Brooke walked in. Brooke looked stunning. Black dress, perfect makeup, hair blown out and glossy. She moved through the restaurant like she owned it, smiling at the host, touching Dylan's arm possessively. When she saw me, her smile didn't waver. "Emma," she said warmly, "thank you for suggesting this. We really do need to talk." She hugged me. I forced myself not to recoil. We sat down. Dylan looked exhausted. His eyes were red-rimmed and he'd lost weight. The stimulants were taking their toll, even though he'd stopped drinking the shakes. "You look tired," I said to him. "I haven't been sleeping well." "Too much stress," Brooke said, putting her hand over his. "We've both been under so much pressure. These false accusations, the investigation, the media attention. It's been a nightmare." Diane stiffened beside me but said nothing. The waiter came. We ordered. Wine for them, water for me. My arthritis medication didn't mix well with alcohol. "So," Brooke said once the waiter left, "you wanted to talk. Let's talk." I looked at Dylan first. "I want to start by saying I'm sorry. Sorry that this situation has become so painful. Sorry that our family is falling apart." "We're not falling apart," Brooke said quickly. "We're just going through a difficult transition. James's death was hard on everyone. It was murder," Diane said flatly. Brooke's smile tightened. "There's no evidence of that. The police have been investigating for weeks. If there was anything suspicious, they would have charged me by now." "The exhumation results come back tomorrow," I said, "and they'll show exactly what the original autopsy showed. Natural causes. Heart attack. James was 74 years old, Emma. These things happen. He was healthy. He exercised. He watched his diet. He was also under stress, financial stress. He'd made some bad investments, lost a lot of money." Brooke leaned forward. "Did you know that? Did you know he'd lost almost $2 million in the 6 months before he died?" I stared at her. "That's not true." "It is true. Check the investment accounts. He was hemorrhaging money, and he was ashamed. He didn't want you to know, didn't want Dylan to know, so he kept it secret." Brooke's voice was gentle, concerned. "Emma, I think the stress of that secret is what killed him. Not me, not poison, just the weight of failure. You're lying. I'm not. I have the account statements. His financial advisor can confirm everything. James was desperate, and desperation does terrible things to a person's heart." Dylan was staring at his water glass. He hadn't said a word. "Dylan," I said, "you've seen the accounts. Is this true?" I don't know. Brooke handles most of the finances now." "Because someone had to," Brooke said. "After James died, everything was chaos. Bills unpaid, accounts frozen. I stepped in to help. That's all I've been doing, Emma. Helping. And you've repaid me by accusing me of murder. You forged the life insurance policy," I said. Brooke's face went very still. "What?" "The $12 million policy. James's signature is forged. The handwriting doesn't match." "That's absurd. James signed that policy in front of a notary. I have the documentation. Then you'll have no problem showing it to the state's attorney. I'll show it to whoever I need to show it to. I have nothing to hide." Brooke took a sip of wine. "But Emma, let me ask you something. Why would I kill James? He loved me. He was going to leave everything to Dylan and me anyway. Why would I risk prison when I was going to inherit eventually regardless?" Because eventually wasn't fast enough. Because you wanted the money now. Because you have a pattern. A pattern? Harrison Chen, Robert Kallman, Dennis Park, 3 wealthy older men, all dead within 2 years of being photographed with you. For the first time, Brooke's composure cracked, just for a second. Her eyes went sharp. Those men were friends, mentors. Their deaths were tragic, but unrelated. Unrelated? Diane pulled out her phone and showed Brooke a spreadsheet. 3 men, all sudden cardiac events, all within 18 months of meeting you, all leaving money to family members you'd befriended. That's not a pattern. That's a signature. Brooke set down her wine glass carefully. You know what this is? This is slander. This is harassment. This is 2 bitter old women who can't accept that a younger, more beautiful woman was welcomed into their family. I welcomed you, I said quietly. I loved you like a daughter. You tolerated me. You never thought I was good enough for Dylan. You thought I was trash, gold digger, social climber. Brooke's voice rose slightly. But you know what? I made Dylan happy. I gave him the life he deserved. A real partner. Not some doormat who spent 40 years ironing shirts and packing lunches. Dylan looked up. Brooke, that's enough. No, it's not enough. These women have been trying to destroy me for months. They've hired investigators. They've poisoned you against me. They've turned this entire situation into a witch hunt. And for what? Money? Control? Because they can't stand the fact that James loved me more than he loved his own wife? The words hit like a slap. James never loved you, I said. He tolerated you. For Dylan's sake. You're wrong. James told me things he never told you. He confided in me. He trusted me. Those last few months, I was the only one he could talk to. The only one who understood him. Brooke leaned across the table. And yes, Emma, I helped him. I made sure he was comfortable. I made sure he didn't suffer. Because that's what love is. Making the hard choices so someone you care about doesn't have to. The restaurant had gone quiet. Diane's eyes were wide. What did you just say? Brooke blinked, realized. I meant I took care of him. Medical care. Comfort. Not, you said you made sure he didn't suffer, Diane pressed. What does that mean? Nothing. It means nothing. I'm just upset. You're twisting my words. Dylan was looking at his wife like he'd never seen her before. Brooke, what did you do? I didn't do anything. I loved your father. I took care of him. That's all. The protein shakes, Dylan said slowly. You made him protein shakes. Every morning. Just like you make mine. Because they're healthy. Because you both needed... Dr. Patterson found stimulants in my blood, levels high enough to cause heart failure. Dylan's voice was shaking. Did you put those in Dad's shakes too? Brooke stood up. I'm not doing this. This is entrapment. This is... Detective Chen stood up at her table, held up her badge. Brooke Sullivan, please sit down. This conversation is being recorded and transmitted to the Cook County State's Attorney. Anything you say is being monitored. Brooke went white. All around us, I realized, were people in plain clothes. More detectives. More recorders. We weren't having a private dinner. We were in the middle of a sting operation. You set me up, Brooke said, looking at me. You lying bitch. You set me up. She didn't kill him, Detective Chen said calmly. You did. Brooke was arrested at the restaurant. Detective Chen read her rights while patrons recorded on their phones. By midnight, the video was everywhere. TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. The same platform Brooke had used to build her brand now documented her downfall. The exhumation results came back Saturday morning. James's tissue samples showed lethal concentrations of yohimbine and synephrine. The medical examiner ruled it homicide by poisoning. The state's attorney filed formal charges: first-degree murder, insurance fraud, forgery, attempted murder of Dylan Sullivan. Brooke's bail was set at $5 million. She couldn't make it. Dylan moved into the safe house with me and Diane on Sunday. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in 3 days. His hands shook when he poured coffee. He couldn't sleep without medication. Dr. Patterson had him on a strict detox protocol, activated charcoal, IV fluids, constant monitoring. I should have seen it, he said on the 3rd morning. We were sitting at the kitchen table, watching sunrise through the window. All the signs were there. The way she controlled everything. The way she isolated Dad from his friends. How she always insisted on making his food. She was good at hiding, I said. That's what predators do. I believed her over you. My own mother. His voice broke. I let her make you think you were crazy. I didn't defend you when she kicked your cane. I didn't help you up off that floor. I reached across the table and took his hand. You were manipulated. She's been doing this for years. You're not the first person she fooled. That doesn't make it okay? No, but it makes it understandable. We sat in silence for a while. Outside, Carlos was trimming hedges. Real gardening this time, not surveillance. He'd told me last night he was retiring from investigative work. Said this case had taken too much out of him. What happens now? Dylan asked. Now we rebuild. The estate unlocked 2 weeks later. I walked through the Lake Forest house for the first time in a month. Everything was exactly as I'd left it. James's reading glasses on the side table, his coffee mug in the dishwasher, the newspaper he'd been reading the morning he died still folded on the breakfast table. Dylan came with me. We walked through room by room, neither of us speaking much. In the master bedroom, I found the French press Brooke had used, blue ceramic, sitting clean and empty on the dresser. I picked it up, felt its weight in my hands. Then I threw it in the trash. Good, Dylan said. We donated most of Brooke's belongings to charity. Her designer clothes, her yoga mats, her supplements and protein powders. The only thing we kept was Sophia's artwork. Crayon drawings of her grandfather, stick figures holding hands. Sophia moved in with us permanently in April. The custody hearing was brief. Brooke's parental rights were terminated. She didn't fight it. Her lawyers advised cooperation in exchange for a reduced sentence. 25 years. Eligible for parole in 18. Sophia was too young to understand everything. We told her that her mother had made very bad choices and needed to go away for a long time, that sometimes adults do things that hurt people, even people they're supposed to love. She asked if I was going to leave too. Never, I told her. I'm not going anywhere. Dylan went back to work in June, but he cut his hours. He wanted more time with Sophia, more time to heal, more time to remember who he'd been before Brooke. We had dinner together every Sunday. Sometimes Diane joined us. Sometimes Carlos stopped by with flowers for the garden. The insurance company settled. They paid back the $12 million Brooke had stolen, plus damages. I donated $4 million to the Cook County Elder Abuse Prevention Fund. Put another $2 million in trust for Sophia's education and future. The rest I kept. Not because I needed it, but because James had worked for it. Because it represented 43 years of marriage, of partnership, of building a life together. Because it was mine. One Saturday in August, I took Sophia to the Arboretum. We walked through the gardens, looking at butterflies and flowers. She held my hand, the same hand that had held Dylan's when he was small, that had held James's for 43 years. Grandma? Sophia asked. Are you sad? Sometimes. But not right now. Because you're with me? Yes, because I'm with you. We sat on a bench near the rose garden. Sophia climbed into my lap, careful of my hip. The arthritis was better now. Less stress, better medication. Physical therapy twice a week. Tell me a story about Grandpa, she said. So I did. I told her about the day James and I met, about our wedding in the cathedral, about the house we bought together, the dreams we built. I told her about Dylan as a baby, as a boy, as a young man learning to be a surgeon. I told her the truth, but I told her the good parts. She didn't need to know about the poison, the betrayal, the lies. Not yet, maybe not ever. She just needed to know she was loved. That evening back at the house, I found Dylan in James's study. He was going through the desk drawers, sorting papers, tax returns, investment statements, letters from friends, a lifetime of documentation. I found this, he said, handing me an envelope. It was addressed to me in James's handwriting, sealed, dated 3 days before he died. My hands shook as I opened it. Emma, if you're reading this, something has happened to me. I don't know what yet, but I can feel it. Something is wrong. Brooke has been acting strange. Asking questions about the will, about life insurance, about what would happen to you if I died. I've changed the safe combination. The new code is your birthday, 0428. Inside, you'll find copies of all our important documents. If anything happens to me, if the circumstances seem suspicious, please show these to the police. I love you. I have always loved you. Whatever happens, remember that. James. I looked at Dylan through tears. He knew, I whispered. He knew something was wrong, but he didn't know how to stop it, didn't know who to trust. Dylan's jaw tightened. If I'd been paying attention, if I'd listened when Aunt Diane said something was off, you can't change the past. None of us can. I folded the letter carefully and put it back in the envelope. Tomorrow, I would give it to Detective Chen for the file. Tonight, I would keep it close. Sophia came downstairs in her pajamas, dragging her stuffed rabbit. I can't sleep, she said. I opened my arms. She climbed onto my lap, and Dylan sat beside us on the couch. We stayed like that for a long time, 3 generations, holding each other in the house James built. Outside, the sun set over Lake Forest. The gardens Carlos had replanted were blooming. The French press was gone. The poison was gone. Brooke was gone. What remained was this: love, truth, and time. Time to heal. Time to rebuild. Time to teach Sophia that family isn't always blood, and that strength isn't always loud. Sometimes strength is getting up off a cold marble floor. Sometimes it's refusing to sign papers our lies. Sometimes it's throwing out a coffee pot and starting over. I looked at my son and my granddaughter and felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. Not the peace of having everything I wanted, but the peace of knowing exactly who I was. Emma Sullivan, 64 years old, widow, mother, grandmother, survivor, and finally free.